Hi, this is Carolyn Serviss from O2BStampin.com. Today I want to show you how to make some fringe flowers. I've had a lot of fun making all these different designs in the flowers by using different designer series paper. So I'm going to give you a little lesson on how to make these. You can add into some cute cards, or you can also actually add a piece of wire to the back of it and have it made into like a bouquet. So let's get started. Move these out of the way. So to begin, you're going to need a piece of designer series paper that is 3 by 12. And I've already cut this one in half, but I want to show you how I did that. So I took my paper cutter, and when I put the designer series paper in the paper cutter, I lined up the top corner here with the 2-inch mark, but the bottom corner, I'll show you this, it's gonna be a little awkward to try to show you, and the bottom corner with the 1-inch mark. So the top corner with the 2-inch and the bottom corner with the 1-inch, and then I put my paper cutter blade down and just ran it, and then what happens is you actually come out with 2 pieces that will look like so. Okay. Then to make the actual flower, what you're going to need is a button. Now, there's several ways to make these fringe flowers, but I found that this one was sort of the easiest for me. And I've also got a silicone craft mat. You're going to need some sticky strip, and I would recommend about 4 inches. Actually, I need to do something else real quick before we start that. You're going to actually want to fold this piece of designer paper in half. You can use that, run it through your paper cutter and score it, or you can use a bone folder and a ruler and score it, but just for time's sake, I'm actually just going to freehand fold it. Get that out of the way. And then just take my bone folder, go over it a few times, and because eventually you're going to want this to go in a circle, I actually took my bone folder and just broke down the fibers in this just a bit so it would be easier to wrap around the button. Now the next thing you're going to need is fringe scissors. So I have my fringe scissors from Stampin' Up. Comes with this nice sheath to keep it protected. And to start, I am going to again get my silicone mat out here. I want to actually put a 4-inch piece of sticky strip on my designer paper. And I'm going to attach it to the short end, this end, the V instead of the wider end, the thinner end, I guess I should say, and the folded edge. And I have found a little trick that works for me, is I like to just make that as thin of a piece of sticky strip as possible, because I found that the thicker the piece of sticky strip, the thicker the piece is, I can show you this, that is underneath the flower, so when you go to put it on a card, it sticks out real far. But I found a couple of tips that help with that, and one is to just put the sticky strip on so that it's half off the designer paper and half on the designer paper, and that's why I like to use the silicone mat, because the other piece, the other half of it, won't stick to the silicone mat. Then I take my craft and rubber scissors. This is a little bit tedious sometimes. Oh, they're cutting good today. Okay, and I just cut half of it off, and then you can use that on another flower if you'd like. Okay, and zoom back out here a little bit. Okay, then you're going to take your fringe scissors. Now, I'm going to give you a little tip about the fringe scissors. Some fringe scissors you don't want to cut all the way to the tip because they tend to tear the paper. Mine don't seem to do that, but I have seen some of them that do. So starting at the edge without the designer paper, you want to cut, without the sticky strip. You want to cut as close as you can to the sticky strip without going into the sticky strip or cutting that edge off. And so you're just going to keep moving down the designer paper, again coming close to that edge, but don't go through. And again, here's the other tip. The closer that you can get to that folded edge, the closer your flower will mount onto your card. So if you're using the flower on a stem, you don't really need to worry about that tip. But if you're using it on a card, you don't want it to like stand up off the card so much. You're going to want to get as close to that seam as you possibly can. And then at the end of this, I'm going to show you actually another tip that might help. Okay, once you have that done, you're going to peel the red piece of sticky strip, little protective cover there. You want to peel that off. And then, whoops, you're going to take your button and you're just going to place your designer paper right on the button, and then you're going to try to keep the designer paper flush with the bottom of your button. Now some people like to hold it up, some people like it down on the mat. I usually start it down on the mat, but then I end up picking it up. But you want to keep it tight and flush to the bottom. Now soon you're going to run out of that 4-inch piece of sticky strip, and at that point you can just take some Tombow multi-purpose adhesive and just run a small bead, very small beads. You don't want it to be too big, or it'll make a bit of a mess and you'll have it all over your hands when you go to roll it up. So just a tiny bead all the way down the edge. Okay, and then you're going to continue rolling that designer paper around the button. Again, trying to keep that edge, that bottom edge, flush. If it gets off a little bit, it won't be a big deal, but as flat as you can make it and as tight as you can make it. Okay. Now at the very end, you might want to, right here at this end, you might want to put just a little bit extra because there's going to be some stress on that seam. And then you just want to hold it for just a minute so that it's got a good bond, the glue and the paper. Okay, once that's done, actually I'm going to put this down on your table or your grid paper, wherever you're working, and you're just going to want to take your index fingers and put it inside, and then just start to press the paper out and down. And when you do this, you're going to see a lot of different layers of the designer paper. Some are going to be short, some are going to be long, and that's due to cutting it at an angle in the beginning. And if you have the very end, you're going to have a little piece right here that's going to be extra long. And if you want to trim that, if you don't like the looks of that, you can, what I suggest is just trim it sort of at an angle a little bit and just trim it off. Okay, there you have your fringe flower. Now the other tip that I have for you is, okay, so now you can see the bottom, about how far it's going to stick up off of your card. Okay, so I'm going to get this card over here so you can kind of see what that looks like. Okay, to make it a little bit closer, what I found is I lay it face down, and then I can just push that button back to the top. Now what's holding it is that initial piece of sticky strip, that you put on the designer paper, but it's loose enough that you can pretty much push it so that it's now at the top part of the flower. Okay, and then do a little bit more even. All right, and then I took my craft and rubber scissors and I just cut into that about every 1/4 inch, trying not to meet up with any of the places that were cut from the fringe scissors. It's about every 1/4 inch around without meeting up with any of the seams from the fringe scissors. Okay, once I got that done, I laid it back down again, face down, and I pressed that out. Okay, so now it's getting flatter all the time, and now you don't have quite so much raised surface there. You can just glue that. I used my multi-purpose Tombow adhesive, but you could use any glue that you think will work well, and add a little touch of ribbon to the inside to cover the button, and then you have just add a little wish, some designer paper, and you have a very simple card. I hope you've enjoyed that video on how to make fringe flowers. Have a great evening, and again, this is Carolyn Serviss at your service with o2bstampin.com.